Oh! Hey, how's it going, folks? We're here in podcast land, here at the Calvary Studios, bringing you some of the best in inane chatter ever. So, I wanted to actually talk about Poverty Row Movie Studios today.
Should say I'm on with you before you do that.
Yes.
Hi, it's me.
And I also have Rob Schwartz, our esteemed. Well, see, he let me take over the show today, so I just said, "Oh, fuck, screw you." I'm sorry.
You're learning. You're learning.
Yes.
The only thing you didn't say, you never did the part about don't make eye contact, don't talk before I speak. Like, I know how I treat all you guys. What the heck is pop? You
don't know that term?
It sounds familiar.
Okay, so back in mostly the 30s and 40s, when the studios, I don't really know how. It was just a budget thing mainly. A lot of people splintered off from the big studios. And there became what was known as Poverty Row Studios, like Producers Releasing Corporation and what's that? The real cheapy one there. Not Monarch. I don't know, the Charlie Chan movies.
Oh, you know the ones like when you get those big box sets of the 50 movies?
Yeah.
It's those the little Eagle ones like the Republic.
Right, Eagle, yeah.
Did you say Republic is?
No, the Republic's not Poverty Row.
Which had now, who had all
Mascot. I'm thinking Mascot.
Yeah, who had the Three Musketeers cereals from John Wayne? Was that Republic? Remember them? It was like him and they were like singing cowboys.
Oh, the Tom Tyler and
I love the Ghost
that's
Mine
Republic.
one. The Ghost Mine one was great.
Yeah. Some of those might have been. And so anyway, there were these little Poverty Row so-called studios, low budget, small studios, which would be like a Roger Corman sort of thing now, So I just think it's very interesting because I watch those things. Usually the sound isn't very good, but the stories are always pretty good. And when I noticed a lot of them, there's hardly any music.
Probably because of rights.
And they were probably either for the rights or they just couldn't hire people. They didn't have the money to do music. So it's actually more like listening to a radio play or watching a play. And there's lots of dialogue. And it's story. So, I find those kind of interesting, and I always buy them. Like Mill Creek does a lot of those.
Yeah, Mill Creek. That's the one that you get all the discs from.
And like the other day I was telling you, I found this cereal in my collection, Rin Tin Tin. Okay, so these are 4 or 5 different cereals in a box set, all about this damn dog, and he's like the hero. I mean, he's the focus of the story.
Wasn't he? Is he German Shepherd, if I remember? I used to watch all of them.
Yeah. It was a TV show for a while. But, this was interesting because it's very melodramatic. And it's like,
oh, yeah, of course.
This girl, her father has a gold mine, and these guys are after the letter or something that says where the mine is, and then there's all this fighting. And then the other thing that's really funny about these movies, too, is that the fights. We're so used to sophisticated fights and stunt work. It looks like they're wrestling. They put their arms around each other and they just kind of swing wildly at nothing. You ever see when they throw somebody
and you look real close, it's a dummy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that in Shazam. I was watching this Captain Marvel again, and these guys attack him. He throws as a dummy.
I love the Captain Marvel.
That's one of the best.
Did you know how they did the flying scenes in that?
No.
What they did, Republic was really cool when it came to this stuff. They put a dummy, put the costume on it, ran a wire across whatever they wanted to film, so across the scape of the camera, and they just shot this thing down like a zip line. They shot this thing down the line, and that's what you see flying.
And then he pops out like he jumps on a board, like lands, springboard or something. Well, what's different, like from the Kirk Allen Superman, where they do like a cartoon,
the animated,
like,
the
animated.
I actually started to like that.
I love it though because look, you go like now. I think one of the problems we have is you can do anything,
right?
But you forget the story. Well, isn't it neat? Like if you're going. Okay, it's like if you were a kid and you wanted, like, there was one thing they showed, like, on this one show where a kid made a movie. He did a laser beam, and they asked him, how do you do it? I scratched my finger across the film.
Right.
And you have to think of how to do it.
Right.
And I think there's something neat about that, like having to design stuff. And...
Yeah, well, I watched a thing the other day about horror movies and special effects. And, everybody just raved about Ray Harryhausen. And, all these guys, Ray Bradbury, all these people, if it wasn't for Ray Harryhausen, these guys wouldn't be in. Even the Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, he said he saw King Kong and that was it. He was in.
Could you imagine, though, in the time it takes us to do one show, what would they get? Maybe 5 minutes of footage?
Right.
Because he would say he would be doing it. Somebody would call him, and he'd have, because you're doing for stop motion.
He had to remember where that thing was, yeah.
And one of the most awesome things, what I'm going to say, the skeleton fighting Jason the Argonauts.
Yeah, they mentioned that, too. They go, even if nobody knows about the movie or knows what the movie is about, everybody knows that scene. Because it's a huge...
And the other one was, you can find him now. He did, he wanted to do War of the Worlds. You could see clips from it.
Oh, yeah?
The Martians look more like octopi.
Oh, wow.
But he also did some Mother Goose. And they got, the tortoise and the hare.
This is Harryhausen?
Yeah, you could find them. There's,
I'll have to look for that.
They're just short clips.
Oh, how cool is that? I didn't know that.
No, he came. I saw him. I was very lucky. He came to the talk at the Dryden.
I watched Destination Moon the other day. That was a cool movie.
I'm actually, see how we always contact ourselves telepathically on the show, it seems, because I'm reading a bio of Robert Heinlein. What am I writing right now?
Oh, he's great.
All the problems they were having with Destination Moon getting it on screen.
Really?
And actually they had a deal, they were doing 2 pictures. One was The Great Rupert, which is like a Jimmy Durante Christmas film. And I only know that because I got a Christmas film box set at Ollie's. And they did 2, and that bombed.
Wow.
But but they kept rewriting. Then they were having fights about who's going to get the screenwriting credit. They'll say it's story by Robert Heinlein. Somebody else has a screenwriting credit. And then they want to go on. Actually, the guy who was co-writing the screenplay, he was going to go on to do Forbidden Planet.
Ah.
And it's George Pal, obviously.
Yeah. I never quite understood the Shakespeare Tempest analogy, though.
It's because of Ariel. The daughter was Ariel. And the part I don't get was he was Prospero.
Yeah.
Daughter was Ariel. He was very protective of her. So I think that probably, I haven't read it in a long time because at the end there's a resolution for it.
I mean, that movie's got Star Trek all over it.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the whole psychological...
I love the creature, too. Plus the robot, the best scenes, the one guy... Oh, you can duplicate booze.
Yeah.
And Leslie Nielsen.
What's his name? Earl Heineman or Earl...
Yeah, plus,
Earl
I thought the effects were great.
Yeah, it was a great movie. And Leslie Nielsen, man, was buff and he looked all good. It was so totally serious. Nothing like what you're used to seeing him in.
The one I like is actually Robinson Crusoe on Mars.
Oh, I never saw that. Is that what Adam was?
Get it at... Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can find it out, or the library, I know one library might have it.
I think it's on Tubi.
It's one of those things, if you want to buy it, you get a shelf for it. It's one of those.
Yeah.
It's actually good.
I'm trying to get a moratorium on buying DVDs.
You know what most of them I do? I get cheapies, but I get a lot of stuff out of the library. That way I know I'm going to watch them and take them back.
Well,
you know what I just got out? I never seen this. I'm dying to see this one.
I got to get there.
All Through the Night with Bogart. Now, it's a spoof.
I have it somewhere.
It is a spoof on his character where I guess there's something about Nazis loving cheesecake.
Oh, yeah.
It's a romp,
I have
and
that.
It's a romp about it.
Yeah, I have that. He's like a gang leader in Brooklyn or something.
Yeah,
or he's got a gang.
He's got 3 guys, like Jackie Gleason and 2 other comedians, Red Skelton.
I watched that movie. It's great.
It just looks like one of those movies you could just laugh your head off.
If I can find it, I burned a copy. If I can find it,
I'll say that on air. We're just joking. Well,
I didn't actually burn it. I recorded it on a DVD recorder. Is that the same thing?
There's a knock on the studio door.
Hi, IRS.
Here's a question I want to ask
you, though.
Here's a question I want to ask you. What do you think? Now, Carl Malden argued this point about the studio system, and I've read this in books. There's this one film historian who said, people knock the studio system, but if you look at films, you had people running these studios who really cared about movies.
Right.
Now, when you give art, and I believe in artistic freedom, I'm like, nobody wants to tell you what to drum, nobody tells you what the song to write, what we do on here. But they said, like, look at the movies then, and they really cared. And then look now, some of the choices the actors make, some of the crap coming out.
And they were organized.
So was it a bad thing?
Yeah. And they had a system, and that's just it. I mean, they had the stars under contract, and they gave them this part, and they'd lend them out if they had to or whatever. But there was control. And one argument I've been, like, having with people, or point of view, is, okay, back in the day, the movie studios owned a lot of the theaters, so they would distribute the movies.
Don't realize that.
They would distribute the movies to their theaters and get them out there. Well, which makes sense to me. You know, okay, we made them, now we got to show them, and so the government came in and said, monopoly, you can't do that, and they broke it all up, and that's where a lot of this Poverty Row stuff started to creep in. So my observation on that is, now follow me on this.
Oh.
Paramount Plus has CBS shows.
Crossword Puzzle actually clued yesterday.
There's the Turner Classic, streaming thing. There's
Tubi,
but
Hulu.
But my point is, what are these modern studios now doing? With streaming, they're doing the same thing. They're controlling the distribution and giving you the conduit to watch.
And we also don't want to get in.
Now it's okay.
We don't get into serious stuff, but if you consider, okay, they broke up a monopoly. What the heck is Disney? They own like half the world.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. They're doing the same thing. They just kind of crept back in the back door and figured out how to do it.
And I could dissect this because I've read a lot about Ed Wood, but I always watched that Tim Burton Ed Wood movie.
Yeah.
But so they condense basically, the time frame. But the part about, okay, when he does Glenn or Glenda, right, and he's talking to the studio, and they say, well, this crap, we'll be lucky if this place, what they would do is they would sell it out to so I can't imagine, like, in those days where you would actually find, like, somebody had one of his movies playing.
Right. I've never seen an Ed Wood movie, until now, so.
No, he's like one of those guys, I think.
Plan 9 was on Tubi.
But honestly, if Lugosi didn't, and a lot of people will go one way or another. According to what I've read, David Scoll's a great author for horror.
He's good. I like him.
I love this stuff. Is like this book about Karloff, and
he's on a lot of those special features.
He's really thorough. But he said, like, the thing. Okay, people ask like Lugosi when he's in that. Ed Wood didn't use him, and he just enjoyed doing the work.
Right.
Like he would have fans would just come over and knock on his door. He would let them in. He just liked the attention.
He was quite a gracious. I mean, I just watched 2 things on him on Tubi actually. And, he was a great stage actor, and he got popular with Dracula on stage. I didn't realize that.
And he also, because Lon Chaney died,
right.
Now Todd Browning didn't want him originally. He wanted somebody else.
Right.
But did you know that he came up with the story for The Wolfman, and he wanted to star in it?
Really? I didn't.
And he played Bela the Gypsy.
Right.
But they screwed him out of it. And also in that one House of Dracula, the one with Carradine plays Dracula, he could have played him. He was available, and they didn't have him play him.
Right. Well, he's a good example of what happened with the Poverty Row. Because his career started tanking, that's all the stuff he could get.
Like a mess. My phone, my phone's like slop all over right now.
Like that movie, The Ape, and the Bat, the
one with the Ritz brothers. Is he in
the Devil Bat?
Yeah, Devil Bat. Is he one with Bela Lugosi meets a Brooklyn Gorilla?
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch it just because of the title.
Yeah.
Or Old Mother Riley and the Vampire.
I mean, that poor guy. He was just acting. He kept on going, and then the guy was married like 4 or 5 times. It's like no wonder he freaking died early. I mean,
he got
that much
fights with
stress in your life,
and he had the one because unfortunately he was a drug addict for decades. But he had like fans who they wrote to him, and he like had his sister would sign autographs because he was such in bad shape. He would apologize to them and say give him an autograph and say I'm really sorry.
Huh?
Now how many people would do that? How many people would like get away from me, kid?
Well, it's sad, and I think I also watched a couple of these documentaries on Hollywood murders, and of course George Reeves was in there, and the Black Dahlia, and all these weird things, Fatty Arbuckle, that whole thing.
See, the Fatty Arbuckle is the one I wonder about. I really do.
But I mean, you just got to wonder how seedy was this place back in the
I always
20s
say,
and
like,
30s.
over, like, years, truth, but, like, the George Reeves thing is strange, because everybody who knew him, he had a huge booze problem. We know that.
Right.
And you could tell on some of those Supermans, he went out to lunch, and when he came back...
The color ones, for sure. The last...
You could tell, like, some of those latter-day ones.
Yeah, he's, like, real mellow.
But everybody loved him.
Yeah.
And the thing was, like, you don't know, like, okay, the night of that, if what the heck really happened. It's just,
apparently
you
he
can
went
watch that
back
movie
to back.
Hollywoodland,
Yeah.
but they try to give, like, the Rashomon thing where there's, like, the 4 different,
Right.
but, and you wonder, unfortunately, and I always say, it's never the answer. Did he just have, like, one moment, because he came downstairs, told him, please be quiet, he had a headache, but then he apologized, then he went, and I can understand why they waited to report it, because, something like that happens, obviously. You're sort of shocked.
Right. Sort of. Sort of shocked. Not really too much.
But,
shocked.
and the irony of people go, well, Superman killed himself,
I know.
too.
I know.
And I don't know, but that's the thing. It's too bad, like, if we have a time machine, you could go back and see.
I think there was a lot of... it was a lot more callous back then, for sure. I think the studio groomed these people, and they put these images out, and then eventually, whether the stars believe their importance or not, the people were fed this image stuff, and I think that's why there was all this allure, because you just thought, oh, if I go there, man, it's going to be like this, and I'm going to have a swimming pool.
They snorted their cocaine, they partied, they did all the stuff people do now, but they covered it up.
Right.
They did, like, they had, like, orgies, they did lots of
Oh,
bad...
yeah. Did you ever see a movie with Jack Palance called The Big Knife?
Yeah.
That's a great movie. And that's that whole thing. Rod Steiger is a complete dick as an agent or whatever he is in that movie. He's just like, if you don't, you're not going to work in this town, and if you don't do this, blah, 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 blah. He's just like, just treating people like dirt.
But there's the famed story, too, when they show it in Hollywoodland, which is true. George Reeves was in Gone with the Wind.
Right.
But he had a part in From Here to Eternity.
Right.
And he was really happy about it. But they did a test of it. Everybody was just laughing.
There's Superman.
Go fly away.
Yeah.
So they cut it.
Yeah.
But you wonder, like, okay, if somebody gave you an offer and said, okay, you're going to play, like, a classic character. We'll give you, like, maybe, like, 5 years on a TV show. You might do movies afterwards. You can do that, but you're probably going to get typecast. Or it's up to you. Which would you pick?
Yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, you probably go, depending on how, I don't want to say desperate, but depending on your work situation, you'd probably take the sure thing.
Well, like, I know William Shatner, I read his books, and, like, for a while in the 1970s, he was living in a van with his Doberman. He, like, lived in a van for a while.
Wow.
Maybe that's why he's still doing work now, because when you're poor.
Oh, sure. Sure.
And remember, like, for Star Trek, everybody... most of them seemed like they loved the show, but what was it if you were an actor? Spock went off to star Mission Impossible.
Right.
Actor. It was a job. They had 3 years of employment. Then it was gone. Nobody knew it was going to be this phenomenon.
Right. I mean, shows that run a long time. I mean, you've got a crew, you got family. It's like Big Bang and all those shows. I mean, you're working with the same bunch of people for years.
Yeah, and I know, like,
10
Chuck
years.
Norris, and I've never really watched Walker, Texas Ranger.
That was a good show.
I watched, like, 1 or 2.
Yeah.
The ones I saw were a little, like, when he was, like, too... Like, he would have to have the message.
Right.
It's like, if you just believe in yourself or stuff. Or, like, he brought in Dennis Rodman to fight drugs in high school or something. But what he said is, like, he wanted to stop, but he did it an extra year because he said, I know what it means to the crew.
Right.
Steady
that's
employment
cool.
and stuff.
Yeah. I ran across that Shazam show from the 70s on one of the streaming channels.
I got the book. I finally ordered the book for it.
Yeah. Whoops.
I think that was our maestro.
I did want to mention something before it goes away. Keep talking.
Shazam.
I lost
what about
it.
the
No,
Shazam?
it wasn't Shazam. It was back to the George Reeves and.
Okay, what about it?
The
The story, the show, the murder, the whatever it was.
Nope, it's gone.
If it pops up later, that's how this show works. We remember the stuff afterwards. You'll
Sorry,
be doing
folks.
it. We have a lot of guests coming up. He's gonna pop up and say it if he never.
I left for a minute, but I'm back.
We have till the show ends. But what do you want to say about Shazam?
Well, I just ran across it and I watched a little of it and it was interesting.
You know what they do?
I like those 70s, like that Spider-Man 70s. Those
Let's
were pretty
be
good
cynical
shows.
for a second. Like, imagine now, okay, I give you the show plot. There's this young boy riding around with this guy in a...
Yeah.
Ding! Could you have that out now?
I know.
Oh, he's my mentor. Oh.
Well, look at that whole seduction of the innocent.
Les Tremaine. But, they had that, and I'm sure because it was for the kids, when every case they had, and you could make the argument, well, they didn't have supervillains, but they didn't have a budget. But every case they had, the idea was to teach a moral.
Right. Yeah, morality plays.
And they would say, like,
Most
the gods
TV
would say,
was.
okay, this is how we're going to solve this.
Yeah, most TV was morality plays, and they wrapped it all up quick. But, and that was another thing I was going to mention is, like the Superman show is a good example. Go back, watch comparable shows from that time period. Rocky Jones or any of that stuff that's out there. You know Rocky Jones?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, the sets are a little cheesy and this and that. You look at Superman, the production value was very, very high on that show. And it looked more filmy. And, well, it was done on film. But
the Mole Men. Watch the Mole Men.
I did. I just got that. I just watched it.
It's on my set. I got the complete series for like 1999.
Wow.
It was at Target. I remember they were out, and I asked somebody, and they went in the back room, and they had one more.
I bought a sci-fi one, a Universal one, with monolith monsters.
That movie's horrible.
Tarantula.
That one's great.
Yeah. Monster on the Campus.
Yeah. It was
and there was one more.
Monolith Monsters is horrible.
Shrinking Man.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
Monolith Monsters is horrible.
Yeah,
that's
it's pretty bad.
one. But that's a horrible one. The thing about Superman, too, and my bias, I still, bless Noel Neal, but Phyllis Coates was just better.
Yeah, she was the best.
Incredible.
Spunky.
But that first year, especially as Superman, was like hardcore crime.
Well, you got to go back. It's the same thing I say about the Adam West show. If you go back to the Batman comics of that period,
they were camp.
That's what was going on, so that's what they copied. You go back to the Superman thing, Robert Maxwell Case did the radio show. So he's the guy that did the first season, and that's why it's much more gritty. In fact, they lifted a couple of the stories, the stolen costume, and there's one or two more that they directly lifted.
That was nasty, too, because remember, where would you see Superman, well, I'm going to strand you here?
I know.
Then the guy falls off a cliff.
I know, it's great.
Hey, I'm not going to catch him. They're not going to catch him.
He just takes off. And don't try to leave.
They had a thing about Batman in the comics where, like, if somebody found out the Bruce Wayne identity, he had 6 more identities to slip in. What'd Superman do? He flies you out into isolation, then you fall off the cliff.
Yeah, it's a strange story. But, one of the writers from that show that did a lot during the second season, and a little bit during the color ones, was this guy, Jackson Gillis. He wrote a ton of radio mysteries. And he was actually a writer on Perry Mason with Raymond Burr. And I think he was a producer on that one, too. Anyway, he was a great writer. All his stories are top-notch. Any of those Jackson Gillis ones, I think the one where he gets radiated is one of his. And
some of those, the only other thing too was the one guy who always plays a thug is like in 50 of them.
Yeah, Ben Weldon.
But the one that got me too, that's so hardcore. Remember, it was like that town Lois goes to. There's like a mad psycho killer in a gas mask.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the deserted village.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was a cool one.
Or like the way they did a werewolf one. It was just a wolf though.
Yeah, and the whole thing with that show, the way they did it, they kept within the boundaries of what they could do realistically. They didn't try to do anything that they couldn't do. And the stories were important, and it's mainly about Clark Kent and his bunch, and then Superman just kind of comes in at the end or in between. But that's why the show was good, because there was a damn story.
And that's the thing people forget. And also people, this, but where did Kryptonite come from? It's not the comic, from the radio show.
And Jimmy Olsen, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still think Jack Larson, he is golly gee, that's the perfect.
Yeah. Did you ever see the Kellogg's commercials?
Yeah. Oh, I've actually posted them online.
I've been watching a lot of those from different. There's a Lone Ranger one where he's got a pistol that shoots darts. And he goes, I remember kids always aim at the target, never aim at anyone. I mean, even that had a moral.
Well, that was a true story. It's in the Hollywoodland movie, but it's in every book I've read.
Oh, with the kid with the gun.
Where, George Reeves making an appearance.
Yeah.
The kid comes up with his dad's gun.
Yeah.
And the way he got out of it, still, imagine, I would break character really quick.
Yeah.
But he just said no, because it might bounce off. It'll bounce off me and hurt someone.
Right. Well, that's using his head. I mean, he kept the...
I would just run away.
Yeah, right. I know. Now put the gun down, son. I mean, nobody ever did anything about where the kid got the gun or how he got the gun.
No, like they always said this. They said the difference in comic books was, okay, read a Superman book, say 1940s, 1950. He's flying over an ocean. A dragon pops up, breathes fire at him, then goes back in the water.
Right.
That's it. Same story. Now they extrapolate on the dragon for 5 issues.
Right. Right. Yeah, they started throwing in so many characters here and there, and I don't even know what's going on with Superman at this point. I buy a couple issues here and there. There's All-Star Superman. There's Red Son.
He was he was like a young kid again, and then he was young. Batman was old.
Wow.
And then it's like they had a new. And why are they keeping redoing these things?
I don't know. They keep trying to reimagine, which I'm starting to hate that term. But
I hate it too.
They reimagine all these things and what if.
I actually got to the point where I can't. I'm so sick of remakes and stuff. It's like, okay, it might be great. I saw they're going to have Quantum Leap.
It's like, doesn't anybody have any?
They're doing a show for
anymore?
Let Me In.
What's that?
It's a Dane. I'm going to get it wrong. It's a Scandinavian movie about a 12-year-old vampire.
Oh,
and actually,
I heard that was really good.
It was great. And then actually the remake, I have to say, the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz here, it's one of those remakes where you can watch both because they follow it.
Yeah.
But I mean, come on.
That reminds me, you mentioned her name. I love those 2 Kick-Ass movies. I have those. Those are the freaking best.
Oh.
Isn't she in that? Right?
Yeah, and I've read the comic. Yeah, I forget she's whatever girl.
Yeah, those movies are cool as hell.
But isn't it perfect though for a superhero in real life? He goes and he gets the shit beat out of him the first time and everything else. But that's the thing though they do now. It's just like the Munsters. We've been hearing all these complaints about that now.
I didn't watch it.
I haven't watched it. I am going to watch it. You know what somebody said? The one comment got me really interested. Said his mom watched it. It said that reminded him of a Batman from the 60s because of the color.
Oh, wow.
But I guess that guy, Daniel Roebuck, and they just call him the Count in this movie. It's Grandpa Munster, obviously.
Yeah.
He's got tons of memorabilia. He just loves the show. So he's they say you could tell he knows the character.
Right.
But I always try to, I'm going to watch it and just see for myself.
I think they're trying to tap into our age group. And the baby boomers, and they like this, so they'll go see it. And this was a great show. And even probably the people that make shows, they're probably going, man, wouldn't it be great if this was around again? And so they start pitching these ideas.
Then you wonder if some people just don't have the talent to make their own property.
I know. I mean, where's the original ideas? I mean,
you do cover songs, you do original songs. There's
right.
a difference. Like that. But the Munsters, people don't even know. They didn't even explain things in the day because there was somebody else who played Lily in the pilot. They just decided she wasn't good. That's all.
Right. Yvonne DiCarlo was a great actress.
The person who played Marilyn before Pat Priest, she left because she
got married or something.
Baby, she got pregnant.
Yeah.
So they don't even explain it. They just, these days, of course, Dick
somebody
York and
else
Dick
in.
Sargent,
Yeah.
they just pluck somebody else.
Yeah, well, I suppose you got to have that suspension of disbelief and just let it go.
But my own, humble brag, I actually met Denise Crosby once, and I got to tell her that story about Jonathan Frakes. So we'll see if it was, because she said she was going to tell Jonathan. That whole Spider-Man story I told many times.
Okay.
That's the one, that's the one I said, my dad took me to meet Spider-Man. Remember those comic book albums?
Yeah.
It was like at Sears or Woolworth, and Spider-Man signed it.
Right.
It's got... That was an early gig. I found out that was Jonathan Frakes in an early gig. He played Spider-Man, did signings.
How cool
so that's the Jonathan Frakes. She said that I see him all the time. I'm going to make fun of him.
Yeah.
But I asked her my question to her was, we worked on Pet Sematary with Fred Gwynn. How was he? And she's like, the sweetest guy.
Right.
And we were talking about his children's books. He used to do these books with puns.
Oh, wow.
But he's, he went to Harvard or something. He's
Holy
like
crap.
this really, but I still love Car 54.
That's a great show. I watched that. I have that Roku channel that show that. That is funny, man. That show is really, really funny.
There's a couple of them. And the thing is about the show, too, it's really not about, like, crime work, obviously.
Right, it's about the cops and their families.
And I love the one where, like, their priests think all the crime's been cleared up. Why? Because they're idiots, but the people love them so much they police the neighborhood.
It's like they had this one about a lady that wouldn't move out of this building because they were going to tear it down and all this stuff. And, all the stuff they tried to do to, come on in, have some cake. And,
There's Nipsey Russell, he's in it. He's got a small part. But then there's Al Lewis's with Sergeant Schnauzer.
Yeah, I know.
He's got, like, always, like, his wife. He's always complaining about his wife and everything.
Oh, yeah, that show was great, man. And then, that Fred, or the other guy, Joey Ross. I mean, I never saw him do anything else.
He's always...
He was funny. I mean, that show is clever.
I'm conflicted about this one because I thought he played somebody in Sergeant Bilko, but I haven't seen it in a long time. There was a guy like him. The guy who played...
That was a good show, too.
That was a great show. That was like hilarious show.
I mean, they remade that, too, and I never saw that one.
No, I wasn't going to watch that one. And I always wondered if the term Bilk came from that or they just named him.
Maybe.
Because they called it You'll Never Be Rich of the Phil Silvers show, too.
Well, there was Bunko, which was the
Bunko Squad.
Yeah. Maybe it was a pun on that.
But there was, like, all those things, and you think, like, now, if you were writing a serial, like, for radio, also think you had to entertain the audience. People had to be on, and I love how the actors would just do the answer. Oh, by the way, this is for Glee.
Yeah.
Thing.
Well, it's funny because you watch a lot of these shows on the streaming things, and they still have the little, on the credits at the end, they'll have the little product thing in the corner, and pretty funny.
It's beautiful, like, what you can find now. Like, you can find the old radio shows.
Yeah.
And everything online. And I just like the way, because you have to, some of my friends, ones will be on again from DVC, they did an old radio broadcast from the Lyric Theater one time. Just like they all stood there, they all dressed like in period piece.
That's cool.
And it was awesome.
I would like to go on one of those cruises. Radio Classics does that from Sirius XM. They have these cruises where you can take part in a play and do all that. And you know what's interesting? I was reading something, or somebody said, "Well,
I keep looking at this thing up here."
Ooh, wow! Hang on, I'll be right back. So when people would go watch these radio shows and being done, and people would say, "Well, why would you go to a studio, watch a bunch of people stand around a microphone with a piece of paper?" And because it was cool, and I think if you just listened and got the jokes or the drama, it's entertaining, and people like seeing that stuff.
And I'm going to give my opinion here. People can argue or not. We'll go back to classic horror for a minute.
Okay.
Dracula, 1931.
I like it.
I think these. You can find it now on a lot of the discs.
Yeah.
These Spanish versions better.
I heard. That's what I've heard.
It's incredible.
I have it on one of the box sets. I have to watch it.
And I think they filmed it simultaneously.
Yeah. They use a lot of it. They did it at night.
Can you imagine, like, you're shooting the film and we're going to shoot the same film again?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's kind of like what, what's his name? Donner tried to do with the Superman, the first two. And there's an interesting thing. I saw it on Amazon or somewhere, and I thought, I'm going to get this just for the hell of it. It's the first Superman movie, but it's like 3 hours long. And what they did, it's pretty funny. Because it's an interesting example of, well, why do they have to cut things? And why do they have to do pacing and whatnot? You watch this thing, all they really did was whatever they took out was back in. Like, there's this whole scene, like, remember the part where they hijack the missile and she pretends to be... Okay, well, before they do that, they're in the van discussing something, and all of a sudden, there's like this overdub thing. They show the van, and then you hear the voices, and it's Otis and Luther arguing like a father and son, like, Why do you have to? Don't yell at me like that. And it's like, really, was that necessary? But
I still have Otis.
it
What was it, Otisburg or whatever?
Yeah.
In his own country.
Otisburg.
That was great.
Yeah.
I mean, but like, I finally saw. It took me like decades to see the Donner cut of Superman 2.
Oh, that's great.
It's so much better.
It's very good.
But you know what he pulled on his actors too? Like, okay, I love his Three Musketeers. You know what he did? He shot the two films at the same time. So he paid them for one film and released with two films.
I didn't know he did Three Musketeers.
Yeah, he did. This is the one in the 70s with Oliver Reed, Michael York, Frank Friendly, that one. You know, a lot of people have done Three Musketeers. Yeah. Charlton Heston is Cardinal Richelieu. There's a good kid. So I know you saw it. Would you compare, like, what would you say also, since you mentioned Superman, the Justice League cuts? You've seen the whole thing.
The Snyder cut beats them all.
See, I agree. I think, you know, if a movie could, like I always said, the Big Red one, the director's cut, it's like almost 3 hours long. It takes a good movie, makes it a great movie. If you have the time,
watch Red one.
It's a Lee Marvin movie about being in World War II.
Oh.
But it's a good movie. It's got Mark Hamill in it.
I'll have to
and
see
what
that.
he does is he plays against type, because this was made between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back.
Oh.
He plays a coward.
Oh, wow.
But it's like a guy, you know, Lee Marvin's obviously the grizzled World War I vet. He's leading this troop. But the movie's good, but the cut, what they add to it's one of those movies, it's not filler. It actually makes it great.
Right, well, that's just like that that Ultimate Edition of Superman versus Batman. There's all this extra stuff that they put in, like about Clark investigating that lady that the lady that was complaining about, you know, the Superman coming into the African village and all that. And, you know, she got paid by Luthor, you find out. Well, that was all missing from and it's like, you don't really understand how they jump from one thing to the other because they cut stuff out. And then when they put the stuff back in, it's mostly connecting things. Like, I remember I bought a director's cut of Daredevil with Affleck.
I've heard this.
And
I've heard
it's good.
Yeah.
But there's courtroom scenes. There's all this stuff.
Well,
it's
I
like,
still
you know,
think one of my views on that movie is I think Colin Farrell was great as Bullseye, too.
Oh, he was great. I thought it was a good movie.
It wasn't horrible. But, you know, one of the cuts, you wonder why they made it Alien. You
Right.
wondered, where did the people go? There was no blood. Now, if you watch, like, the cut, you can get the extended cut. Obviously, it has them prisoner for the, you know,
Right.
the things. They find him at the end.
Right.
So that's the
In
thing,
the
like
cocoons or whatever.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got them all, like, in the wall and
Right.
stuff.
I have that.
But you wonder where they went, because there's no blood or
Right.
anything else or anything.
Well, you know, and then they make the excuse, and I've watched this explained or heard it explained on some of the special features or commentaries. Well, I didn't want to take it out, but it wasn't essential, and it slowed the film down. And you're assuming an awful lot of your audience that they can't take 3 or 4 minutes to just slow
The
down.
one I have to
watch
see, and I've
something.
never seen, is, okay, The Avengers. This is the one with Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. No, what they said, there's a lot longer version. It's much better, but what they did was they cut it for the summer movie audience.
Right. I'd have to watch that again because it's been so long.
It wasn't great. Sean Connery is a villain, and it wasn't great, but I guess they said it really was a lot better.
Yeah, a lot of movies are a lot better but they truncate them and they screw them up.
But like Apocalypse Now, like a lot of people, it's long enough as it is, but a lot of people like the longer version.
Yeah. Check out that 3.5 hour Superman, the movie, though. It's very interesting because there's just like a lot of scenes are just longer and you know, there's some unnecessary stuff in there for sure, but it's kind of neat to see what they filmed and what they wanted it to be, you know.
It's just
like
too bad
that
there was that Superman 4.
Yeah, well, that's
that one's like an hour 20, and it feels like 4 hours.
Well, that was supposed to be a half hour longer.
That was.
I read a thing.
Oh, that one.
The guy said the studio was pressuring him.
Yeah, but that one was not good.
Yeah.
That one.
Well, did you ever see the outtakes with the Bizarro type creature?
Yeah.
That would have been a cool storyline.
But they've always heard, too, like, there's always going to be the movie with Brainiac and that show Krypton. Brainiac was the main villain.
That's a great show.
You know what? They did Brainiac right.
Yeah. That was a good show.
But supposedly in that Tim Burton, Nicolas Cage Superman Lives, it was going to be, you can find the script, I guess. Now, they have the script for it. I guess John Peters said, I want a giant spider.
And
I guess, wasn't Brainiac going to be the main villain, though?
I think so.
Because who would you want to see now as a Superman villain? You know, we're going to say big screen, obviously. Because
well, Darkseid's been done, so you probably shouldn't bring him back.
Mongol?
Yeah. Mongol would be
Or
good.
what about, what's the cyborg, as they call him, this composite Superman
or Parasite. Guy? Parasite's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Could he carry a film, though? Wouldn't he be like a stooge for Luther or something, you think?
Yeah.
Or have the Toyman?
Toyman would be good if they didn't make it stupid. Well, they covered that in a lot of those shows, like Smallville and and what was the one? Supergirl. They had a Toyman.
Yeah, they had a Toyman. Actually,
subplot.
they also had Nixie on the last season of Supergirl. It was another evil imp.
Yeah.
She was pretty good.
They really dug into the canon on that show, and I appreciate that they try to like Mixes Pitlick and all that.
Wasn't Howie Mandel Mixes Pitlick on Lois and Clark?
I think so. No, I think it was. Oh wait, I'm thinking the Superboy
wasn't Mark
one.
Hamill the prankster?
Yeah, Trickster.
Oh yeah, because the prankster was on the Flash.
Yeah,
I finally watched that series.
Trickster was the Flash.
Oh, Trickster. Yeah, I finally watched that series.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, they had that guy who was Michael Champion, who was like this guy you see like in Zima ads and stuff.
Yeah,
he was Captain Cold.
Yeah. That was a good show.
Periodic, it was.
I think it shifted mood in some spots, like. You know, is he going out with this Tina or isn't he, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it seemed like an odd. I never liked that detective chick that they threw in there. That always bothered me.
No, I don't. But it was written by I think Carrie Bates and Howard Chaykin were the writers.
Carrie Bates was like 16 when he started writing.
Yeah, like supposedly Jim Shooter was 13, but you never know what's true or not.
It's crazy
because I know he wrote Legion. Like I like Legion of Superheroes, which I thought I would love to see them do I know they popped up on a couple things, but I would love to see that done right.
Yeah,
because that's like one of my favorite series.
Well, they cover that and in one of those shows, the Legion of Superheroes, I forget which one. It's Smallville.
And I don't care. I'm biased, but you can send me all the hate mail you want. I like that freaking meeting of the Super Friends from the 1970s.
Oh, yeah.
I own it. I got both of them.
You mean that?
The live action.
I started watching that. It's pretty funny.
They got like more, I was thinking of because they got Mordo in it.
Yeah.
They got like he's water skiing.
I know. They went out on a limb and they branched out with a lot of the characters.
They have like a roast and they have Batman and Robin.
Yep, I saw part of that. That was on Tubi. There was another one I was going to say that the Superboy show is out on that now. And
did they replace
that
him
was
after
a good movie or a good show?
Did they replace him after like a year though with a different kid?
Yeah. They got that Gerard Christopher who was way better.
It was like they got rid of Jimmy Olsen if they're like the Lois and Clark to get a different one.
Yeah, but the Superboy show, Clark. The effects were good.
I remember. You know what I remember the most from Superboy was Metallo.
Yeah, that was good.
They're the one with Metallo because they Metallo and Lois and Clark too.
Right, and that was done by the Salkinds, and that was much better than.
The only thing I found about Lois and Clark was I didn't realize this, but you know why I found out why he died against Doomsday. You know why he died against Doomsday? They wanted to follow the comic when they got married. So they had to go through the stuff. So that when he died, that was the show catching up. It was all tied together.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
Okay, remember Superman fought Doomsday and he died, the death of Superman.
Right.
That whole story was giving the TV show time to put it so they could finally get married. So they could tie it into the comic book.
Oh, I see.
But you should just take over. You just blew through this.
Well, Phyllis Coates was in Lois and Clark.
Yeah. Was she in one of them? Noelle Neal was in like Superman Returns. I think. She was in the bed.
Yeah, she was the old lady that was.
And
dying.
Jack Larson was in there.
Yeah.
But you should do this. Just send me through the trap door now.
Well, are we good? Are we wrapping up?
I think. Well, it's like what's going on now. You want to wrap up? Yeah,
sure. Hey.
So what's going on for you now?
So what have we learned today? Let's recap.
Let's recap. A lot of old stuff that we don't get
Poverty Row.
We're actually Carnival of Randomness because we're going to have a lot of musicians on.
That's right. Yes, we are the Carnival of Randomness. I did forget a few things at the beginning, but forgive me, folks.
Random
I'm learning.
musicians, more. I know, but that's who we know, and I think the shows are entertaining, and we have our bull sessions.
Yeah. Send your pennies and dimes to
everything
141.
Else. But what do you got anything coming up on the pipeline? Because this will be out tomorrow.
I played last night, so that's gone. That's in the pasture. Let's see. In the future, I have that show at Lux with Anonymous Willpower, which will be our final
That's
show.
November. I actually forgot the day Susie told me.
November 2nd, I want to say, I think.
Don't bother. We'll post. We have plenty of time.
We'll find it. And then I have a gig at the B-side with Brian Lindsay coming up. And also, we're going to play.
B-side. I always get takeout there.
I want to mention something. November 12th, there's going to be a thing that I'm doing with Brian. Guitars and Heroes or something. It's the third one. It's a veterans thing. And it's going to be at Johnny's. And it's an all-day thing. So there's
now,
going
Johnny's,
to be like,
you mean Culver Road?
Culver Road, yeah.
I always, why I get it goofed up with Smoke and Joe's sometimes.
Yep, Johnny's. So that's going to be November 12th, and that'll be like all day. They're going to have T-shirts, and there's stuff to buy, and I think you can donate. And I think it's part of the Veterans Outreach Center and things like that. It's
always good to do stuff.
So there's going to be a bunch of bands. So we're playing a set, and there's going to be a bunch of bands.
And he's got that single, too.
Yeah.
Instead of about that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always fun stuff to hear that. I mean, it's been like this fall now, like October. Darn my friends, because now it's getting to the point, well, I'm going to go see this. Oh, come on. There's like 4 different bands I know playing that day. Leave me alone.
And December 6th, the much heralded return of the Tom Waits birthday show at Iron
And we
Sword.
will have Tommy Brunette on before.
That's right.
He said it would be, now I'm quoting him, he said this to me, it will be an honor to be on. Greg will talk to him. We just have to find a day.
Yeah.
We're also going to have our friends back from DVC to promote House of Hands. We might have some XXI people. We might have some good musicians. But I have a really good thing to play at the end here.
Okay.
You can play. You have anything to play too?
I don't, no.
Which is, actually, this band, my friend Anna Leibel, she's in Monica Lewinsky. She was in the Suffragists before. Her sister was in they're coming to the Bug Jar.
Yeah.
But the Minks, now this is a band out of Memphis, so what do I do when they play? I went up, I had a big talk with the drummer. I was like, we do a podcast. He's like, oh, play it, yeah. So
nice.
I said, well, what if you guys try to sue us? Like, we're not going to sue you. So I think, you could take a pick, but I like just the name of the song, Johnny Walker Blues. You have any choice? You could pick a different one if you like. You're just like me. You can't see your sunglasses.
Nothin No More.
Okay, we're going to play Nothin No More.
Nothing.
You know what? There's no rule.
Because I love double negatives.
And we're also going to have our good friends Nightfall. They did a theme album on Dark Shadows. We're going to do some of that.
Oh, yeah?
But also, there's no rule. We can't do the same band again twice. So we'll play that as well. Actually, Nothin No More might be the best song on this. They played live.
Oh, yeah?
But cool. Let's say goodnight.
Okay. Good night, Gracie.